Great Orange Hopeless, where Donald Trump is so hurt. It's gotten so bad that Donald Trump has gone back to Joey Pag's show, which I think you have to look up to see Flashpoint from, which is it's not a good sign when you're going on there. By the way, kudos to Joey Pags for still using this old picture that Fox has been using since like 2016 instead of his mugshot, which is apparently he's getting sued over. But here we go. Let's do this.
Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Really appreciate having the 45th
Yes, we are stopping by. I don't think that we'll stay around.
President of the United States back. It's President Donald J. Trump. President Trump, how are you? Good to talk to you.
And why won't you appear on video when you make these calls? It's not like it's 1990 fucking 3. Why? Why don't they set up? Isn't there a space at fucking Mar-a-Lago where you can be on camera for these things? Or you just do these things from fucking bed? I'm sorry, but there's just something toddler-esque about this shit.
I'm good, Joe. I'm good. I know you're good, too.
Yeah, I'm doing very well, and thank you for making time for my audience and for me today. I want to jump right into it.
Yeah, he had to push a lot of people out of the way. After Kristen Welker slummed it with him for a while.
And the audience question that they had the most, Mr. President, and the one that I've had as well, and I think I've talked to you about this before, is if they cheated in 2020 and the mail-in ballots and the stupid drop boxes that weren't legal.
Uh-oh, Joey Pags is tiptoeing up to the problem that Trump has created for himself.
All the illegal stuff that went on in 2020, if they cheated then.
When they weren't even in office and you were president, if they could steal the presidency from you when you were president while never leaving their basement and sleeping through the whole fucking thing, what could be the what and the what?
Why won't they cheat next year?
Well, they're going to try. They're very dishonest. They are.
Well, again, why would they have to try? If they did it last time without having all this, hold on, where's my fucking, I hate trying to get up. There it is. Trying to raise the volume on this a little. There you go.
They have the worst policy. Can you imagine somebody trying to get
somebody right? They don't like oil. They don't like guns. They don't like God. They don't have open borders. We don't have a blah blah blah. Can you imagine if they do this?
Elected with open borders, high taxes, high interest rates, everything the opposite. The only way they get elected is to cheat. So they're going to try. But we have a lot of people watching. You know, last time they cheated, they got it done because of COVID. And frankly, nobody ever saw anything like what they did. They cheated like nobody's probably ever cheated before, certainly in this country.
Well, certainly not on anywhere off of a Trump golf course.
And probably in a lot of other countries.
Yeah, probably the whole history of the world. The cheatiest cheaty McCheater said it. This is coming from a guy who was fucking his second wife while he was still with his first. And fucking with his third wife while he was still with his second.
But we have a lot of people watching. But the other thing we have is a campaign. We have more spirit and more. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. And
it's a touch of bravado, daring do. Yes, about 11:30.
I think we're going to swamp them. And if you
can't. It's not going to be enough.
We have to slab it.
Yeah, you can't swamp it. You got to slab it.
Swamp them. Their cheating won't matter. They will try and cheat, and they will cheat. Actually, they have people. That's what they do.
Yeah.
That's frankly
cheaters. I think they're called. I think that's the name for them. I think oftentimes or whatever people are often called cheaters. You know, who aren't. And then there are some people who I don't know why, but this asshole doesn't get called a cheater, even though he was fucking his second wife when he was still with his first, and fucking his third wife when he was still with his second, and fucking other women while he was still with his third.
The only way a lot of them get elected. But we have.
But the Republicans that got elected with you, they didn't cheat. They were in the same election, but they managed to squeak by. I see. So I just want to say it because according to MTG's husband, she's a cheater as well. You just mean not in this category. I said it's important. Okay, good.
If we swamp them like it looks like we're going to do, you know, in the sanctimonious, we're up by like 50 or 60 points.
Right.
And on Biden, we're way up on Biden. It's hard to believe that I even have to say that. Who wouldn't be? It's horrible. It's gross.
It's weird. It's you said the same thing when you lost by a lot last time.
Incompetent. And you look at what's happening to our country. We're being invaded at our borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like what's happened to our country. It's never been this low before.
Oh, you mean the number of crossings? They are low. They're back to like 2017 numbers.
So I believe that we're going to be in very good shape. We have very, very good people. They're watching every vote. We are watching it like nobody's ever watched.
Well, when you say,
oh, Tammy, thanks for posting the link. I appreciate that. Yeah. I don't think I can go over the whole thing, but I would go over a couple of things in it. Pull out some pieces from it.
They swamp them, Mr. President. You mean every conservative, every Republican, every Trump supporter needs to get out there and vote. But here's what I hear. They feel.
Here's what I hear. You've talked them out of voting, fuckhead.
Feel disincentivized. They're like, well, I know my vote's not going to count. Why would I go? How can you bully them and make them go?
Again, this is exactly why we have the Senate.
We'll say this. If we don't win this election, I think our country is finished. I think it's really in bad shape.
And by our country, he means his name and legacy. The rest of us will be fine.
It's bad shape now, but I think our country is going to be finished. I think everyone's going to go. They're counting.
Yeah, everybody's going to leave. We're all going to be dead or split, and nobody's going to live here anymore. You know what I mean? If we ever have a Democratic president, things are just going to go to fucking hell right away in a matter of days. Like if Joe Biden wins the election, the stock market's going to crash. Oil's going to be $200 a barrel.
On it. They're counting on. We need this victory. It's the most important election we've ever had, and I think they're very much incentivized.
They
weren't.
No, they aren't
Incentivized with the Senate race in Georgia because they felt Georgia was rigged. And then when
I wonder who put that thought in their head.
They had the Senate race 2 months later. You know, they really
didn't show up because you told them it was bullshit.
I think they actually went the other way. They were really angry because they knew how that.
Oh, so at least, hey, that's progress. I think he's admitting that the Republicans lost the Senate fair and square because he himself talked them out of voting. Baby steps, baby. Come on, baby steps.
Vote turned out.
It's former President Donald Trump.
Very former, extremely former, almost as former as you can get without some sort of state affair.
So much.
No, I believe you. We went to bed thinking that you won that easily, and then all.
No one did that. Hey, asshat. He didn't go to bed at 10 o'clock. He made a statement at 2 in the fucking morning. Where is this shit that we went to bed at 10 o'clock? We were sure we'd win. No, he was a sweaty fucking mess. I stayed up all night. I didn't even go to bed that night. So fuck off with this.
All of a sudden something changed. I want to talk to you about the border because.
No. All of a sudden, they're like counting Democrats' votes? What? I thought when you became president, we wouldn't have to deal with the other half of the fucking country that outnumbers us ever again.
You mentioned it. You know that I'm sitting in San Antonio, although I'm heard around the country.
Heard with a, no A.
Just last night in Eagle Pass, Texas, 2,500 just in the dark of night came across last night, and they're all welcome. Most of them are single men by themselves, some from Ghana.
Why? Why were they welcome? What are you talking about? What do you mean by welcome? Were they not shot on sight? Is that what you mean, welcome? How do you know 2,500 crossed unless they encountered a group of I guess, Border Patrol agents who tracked and picked them up and moved them someplace? What is it? All right, hold on. I hate jumping aside this fucking quickly. But let's see. What is it? Del Rio, 2,500 immigrants cross something, whatever. 1,000 mile squalid conditions. Okay, that's not news. 1,000 squalor high under the Texas bridge. That's what we're doing. Okay, come. I need news, motherfucker. Federal. Hundreds, 1 month ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago, 4 months ago, 24 days ago, 2 days ago, giving birth to the desperation migrants make the rap 13 days ago. I'm not seeing shit. I don't know what he's talking about. Oh, well.
Some from Brazil, some from wherever the place happens to be.
Yeah, so just obviously a place that's not just Hispanic, that sounds kind of black. You know what I mean? Like Afro-Cubans in Ghana, shit like eek. You know what I mean? And you can, and by the way, I know you're wondering, just like I am, ladies and gentlemen of the chat room. 2,500 people in the dark of night running, and somebody standing there with a clipboard, and they could tell the difference between somebody from Haiti, a black person from Brazil, and someone from Ghana at night without ever speaking to the person. I mean, that's not true. They were like a Walmart greeter. They were just like, come on in, come on, hi, welcome, hi, welcome. The Biden administration's put Walmart greeters at the fucking border, according to Joey Pags and this dipshit.
And they're just allowed to come here and do anything they want. Mr. President.
No, they fucking aren't. No, they're not allowed to come here and do whatever they want. They are not. And for the record, from that fucking Kristen Welker thing, nobody's aborting babies after they're born. That's just murder, stupid. It's always been murder. It will always be murder. It's always been that way, no matter fucking what. Nobody does that. And when Youngkin was talking about when he was talking about making a decision about the life of the child, is because it was an inviable fetus. How long will you resuscitate it before you just let it pass away naturally because it doesn't have any fucking lungs?
How is it possible? How is it possible that you enforce the same laws that are still in the books for this president, yet this is going on?
Because it didn't go on during Trump because of COVID, and he just looked the other way. Or the CBP people who are loyal to him want the border to be bad intentionally. They want Americans murdered and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the only conclusion I can draw from how these fuckers are talking. That according to them, Customs and Border Patrol are just letting people through so they can murder Americans just to own the libs.
The laws are fine. You need the right people and you need the right policy. They said open borders. Nobody believed that they meant that.
No. They didn't say open borders. No, they didn't. They didn't say open borders. They did not. And when they reference oftentimes open borders, like when Hillary Clinton was talking about at one point about how people with green cards or migrants who come over for work could come over, work like a quarter of a mile away in America, and then come back when the work was done. Live in Mexico and walk across the border to go to work and then come back. That's what they meant by that concept. Not everybody and anybody.
Nobody thought it could be this bad either.
It is, well, until you put in Title 42 and it made the rules such that anybody could cross as many times as they want, and it didn't go on their permanent record as somebody who tried to break the law and come into the country illegally. So they could try again.
Nobody thought. They're coming in by the millions. They're destroying our cities. They're destroying our towns. Now they're destroying
our constabularies, our villages, our subdivisions,
our countrysides. I mean, everywhere.
There's a big problem with like crazed migrants from mental institutions raping our trees.
Everywhere. They're destroying this country. And this man is incompetent, and I think he's sick. He's an incompetent. He's the worst president in the history of the country.
This guy sucks. Fuck this guy. That's basically the quality of political discourse you're getting from the former president. Fuck. What the fuck? This guy, fuck this guy. God damn it. Thanks for breaking down the details of what you would do when you get into the White House again, and the kind of, it gets a little deep reads, a little wonky for some folks, but thanks. We appreciate it. The quality of the depth of the political conversation.
Yes.
They use weaponization on elections. They do everything that shouldn't be done, they do. And
well, it's a matter of opinion. He's yucking our yums.
Opening of the border will go down as, I think, one of the great catastrophes in the history of our country. Could destroy our country, actually.
Yes, fill it with brown people. Also, no one opened the border. They did not open the border. The border's not open. If it was open, okay, if it was open, why the fuck would CBP even see people crossing? They wouldn't even be standing there. Why are they checking? What are you talking about? What does an open border look like? Just because you can, people can legitimately apply for asylum, which is, I think, what he ultimately means. It's not open. It's so odd. Also, can I just say for the record, especially, and I want to dedicate this to the trolls that are here. Hello, maggots. Welcome to the show. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It doesn't matter. Write a comment. Talk in the chat. Just don't use bigoted, disgusting language. Just try to use your best words. He might have borrowed some of them, but you probably have better ones than he does. For the wall fucking sucks. Apparently the wall doesn't work for shit. Because once the wall went up, it was supposed to handle a lot of this shit. We were supposed to be able to divert CBP to other places. Right? Because we didn't need them in some place anymore because we got our big, majestic fucking wall. But the wall is ass. Everybody can climb over it with a $1.98 rope ladder from fucking Home Depot.
I had Rudy Giuliani on the other day, and I had Bernard Kerik on the other day for 9/11 for the anniversary.
And you just did you ask him what it was like to get a handy from a 15-year-old? Well, I mean, she wasn't really 15; she was in her 20s, but he tried.
And I asked them how long it would take them to fix New York City should they be back in power. Kerik said 4 to 6 months. Giuliani said 6 to 8 months. Mr. President, should you win next year, how long?
No, you shouldn't.
How long will it take for you to close the border back down and restore our nationalism, our love for this country?
Okay, first of all, fuck you, Joey Pags. I happen to love this country. I'm a Democrat, and I love this fucking country. Eat shit, piss off, go away, knock it off. I don't question other people's love for the country just because I politically disagree with them. And the idea that somehow, because Joe Biden, the centrist Democrat, who Donald Trump planned to run to the left of him on crime at one point. That's why he signed the First Step Act. That's why he was I'm going to run against Joe Biden using the crime bill. When the crime bill wasn't responsible for any of the shit people say. Like that, again, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but I've seen this reiterated a couple times lately about Biden. The crime bill is not responsible for mass incarceration. Period. It is not. There are two factors that increase the number of incarcerated people in the United States. VICAP, the Violent Offender Database, and then the fingerprint system. As those went online over the course of 8 years, that period of time, the number of people incarcerated for long periods of time went up federally and state because they could now track somebody. What's your name? I'm Gary Stoner. No, you're not. You're fucking Ted Bundy. We have your fingerprints on file. No, you don't get bail, so you can fuck off to another state and try this shit 6 miles away, just over the border into fucking Oklahoma or Alabama. It didn't work like that anymore. And that singular change, being able to fingerprint people and being able to register rapists and murderers and attempted murderers and kidnappers and sexual predators across the spectrum of awful so that a state could go, who is this guy? That's what did it. And if you don't believe me, go watch what a tooth pull it fucking was to get Ted Bundy out of Florida and charge him in Colorado. Ted Bundy pretended to be someone else for days in prison, in jail when he was in Florida, when he was arrested. He just murdered 8 women. He'd murdered a dozen or so more. But they couldn't tie him to it because we didn't have VICAP and we didn't have a fingerprint national database. People had to get your fingerprints and look through a fucking file for local fingerprints. That's what did it. That's what did it. Stop it. Wasn't 3 strikes because that was only in 2 states. Wasn't any of that shit. Wasn't even privatized fucking prisons. One of the reasons they had to privatize the prisons was because, oh my fucking God, we have these. One rapist usually has somewhere between 6 and 8 fucking victims. And one of the ways they used to get away with it is be a trucker or travel. Get out of the state, do it someplace else. And then when they finally could bust these motherfuckers and lock them up, then the incarceration rates went up. That's it. Stop it. Also, yes, illegal immigrants aren't committing mass shootings and aren't committing crimes on the same level as locals do. Now, some of them do, but that's because humans are like that. 5% of humanity are fucking monstrous scofflaws. It has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with even socioeconomic status. 5% of human beings are fucking scofflaws on varying degrees between murder and just taking your shit.
Almost immediately. It'll go so fast. And
well, all right. He said this before the first one, too. I'm going to drain the swamp so fast. So fucking fast. So fast. Forensics Now DNA. Exactly.
We'll start drilling. We'll get energy prices way down. We're going to get inflation.
Who's we, motherfucker? They've got all the leases they want. Why would they drill a lot if it's going to lower the price of the product they're selling? Why? These are private companies. We don't have nationalized oil.
Inflation taken care of because the energy's going to bring the inflation down. You know, you have gasoline now at $5 again. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's already up. And they only kept it artificial by taking my beautiful that we filled up, our beautiful national, we have the reserve, the big reserve, the salt mines for
the Strategic National Reserve. Just say the fucking phrase. The amount of, by the way, the amount of brain farts Trump has on any given day is stunning. And the maggots just let it slide. Like he can't fucking, he calls people general and governor and senator and whatever because he cannot remember their name, even though he works with them all the fucking time. Yeah, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, right? SPR.
Oil. And they took that and they reduced it for purposes of an election. And that was an artificial reduction. It's now down to this is a strategic reserve. This was meant for war. This was meant not to lower somebody's gasoline.
Well, there's an economic war against the United States right now. You realize that both China and Russia and Saudi Arabia and others are waging an economic war. The difference is that he wants the result of that war. The salt mines are where they keep them. 5 eggs. It's one of the places they have these deep salt mines that can hold all the oil. So that's where they store it. They pour it into these underground caverns. That's there's like 2 of them that are like that, and then there are other places, and that's the only one he remembers because it just sticks out in his head as salt mine
prices. So they vote for a Democrat, an incompetent one. So it's terrible. But I would do it very quickly. We'll close up the border. And we've got to.
And no, you won't. By the way, you want to know why he's not going to close the border? You want to know why? Fucking hell! Let me show you exactly why. Here's why this asshole is not by any means. Where is it? Here we go. Yeah. Here is you want to see why maggots gather in. You want to see why Donald Trump is absolutely fucking not going to close the border with Mexico when he gets in office? You want to know why? Besides the fact that you can't, right? But why he's not going to do that? And also, what the fuck does that mean? Close the border to what? Trucks, cars, commerce, what? Right? Okay, I'll show you why. Here's why. Let me shrink this down for you. Hold on, sorry. Leaders look to the future as Mexico becomes U.S.'s top trade partner. China is no longer our top trade partner. Mexico is. Mexico is currently, right now, our top trade partner. That's why Donald Trump is not going to shut the border in any way. Also, you know what shutting the border does? Never mind some of the damage done to Arizona and maybe Southern California, in the San Diego area close to the border. And you know why he's not going to do it? Because Texas would be fucked. Let me show you that as well. Hold on one second. Let's see. What would I do? Mexico. What do I do? Yeah, here you go. Yeah. Let's just find. I want to find a more definitive article for you for the doubters. Let's see. I'll open that one in a second. And then there you go. Here's the reason. Bring this motherfucker up. This is from September of last year, but you'll get the point. Borderlands. Texas-Mexico trade expected to top 1.5 trillion by 2050. Not U.S.-Mexico trade. Texas-Mexico trade. Just Texas. 1.5 trillion by 2050. That's why he's not going to shut the fucking border. That's why it's not going to happen. Texas's biggest trading partner is Mexico. Without Mexico, Texas is a giant, impoverished bullshit state. And meanwhile, Border Patrol intercepts nearly $10 million at the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas. September 19th, 2023. U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized over 2 tons of pot in a single search of a truck, valued at nearly $10 million in street value. That's High Times. Marijuana news. That's why it's only about the pot. Who are you to wave your finger? You must have been out your head. I hold deep in muddy water. You must... You practically raise the dead. All right. So, it's exactly. That's cut us in the chat room. Excellent analogy. Without Mexico, Texas is Alabama. Marijuana busts are overrated. No, they're not. They hide other stuff, and they hide lace stuff, and it's not a good idea. So, that's a song called The Pot, by the way, by Tool, which I'm singing next week.
You get a lot of people out. You know, a lot of the people, they're coming from jails, they're coming from prisons, they're coming from mental institutions. They're emptying out all them, and this is all over the world, not just 4 or 5 countries that are near us. This is...
Yeah, what are they doing? Putting the fucking lunatics in a canoe? The fuck are you talking about? Also, again, how do they make it to the U.S. without being rapey monsters? How does Mexico feel about apparently Guatemala setting loose every Ted Bundy in their jails and saying, all right, we're going to let you walk all the way to the U.S. border and cross into it, but don't do anything until you get there? No problem. You sure? Yeah, really, no problem. Promise? Yes, of course I promise. I mean, I have no impulse control, and I'm a violent felon who's, you put me away for 40 years for sexual assault and murder and stuff, but I can hold it until I get there. How long is it? Just a couple weeks walking. Well, as long as there aren't any schools in between me, there are. Prison Sex is my favorite song ever. Five Eggs, I love that song, and I was trying to get them to do that song. Those were my 2 choices for next week. The pot and Prison Sex. And I'm happy they went with the pot because we can do Prison Sex at another time. But I want to, totally do that one. Oi. Pinky swear? Promise? Okay. I'm going to let you out. But you got to wait until you get to America before you do your Ted Bundy thing. You promise? I absolutely promise. You sure? Uh-huh. All right. Out you go. Ah! Like... What the fuck do you think he's gonna do? Stab, stab, stab. Like, he bought it. Okay, guys, let's spread out. Like, show me one of the buses.
All over the world they're coming. They're emptying out jails.
All over the world. Everybody's got the word.
And mental institutions, and terrorists are coming in.
Terrorist institutions, Atlantic institution, the National Institution of Terrorism in Bahrain, let all their people out. They're coming over here. They're getting into rowboats.
You know, in 2019, they found no terrorists, and now in...
Okay, then you weren't looking, motherfucker. What are you talking about? Did they not find any crossing the border because they were flying in? Who actually believes that nonsense? I'm dead serious. You know, in 2019, they didn't see anybody, especially late 2019, because the terrorists are among the groups that knew there was a pandemic coming.
It is. They weren't coming. They knew not to come.
Why? They were already here? A bunch of them arrived in 2018?
That was when I was running it. Last month, they had the largest number of terrorists that they've ever recorded.
Caught? They caught them. This is how, let me translate for the who's at home. The Biden administration just caught 200 plus people on the watch list, either on terrorist watch lists themselves or from countries that are on that watch list trying to come into the country. Now, that doesn't mean they're terrorists. They could just be people fleeing, the kind of people who would flee a country full of terrorists. That makes fucking sense. If I was in a country and you were in a country and it was full of fucking terrorists, I'm fairly certain we would flee. That said, Biden administration caught over 200 of them. Trump caught 0. These fuckers were just rolling in.
It's
This
sick.
is a long-term problem, but we're going to get them out.
I've got to ask you, how did you
How?
leverage Mexico? because Mexico isn't
They gave us 25,000 soldiers that they paid for the wall, even though they said they didn't. Blah, 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 blah.
doing anything right now to stop the cartels and
No.
stop.
New York is a mess with illegals. New York is a city of 7 million people. If you don't include the other boroughs, it's like where it's like fucking 10. They got 138,000 people who don't have a sponsor or an NGO looking at them because they were fucking bussed up there. They didn't just randomly walk up there. They were dropped there without any coordinating effort. The fucking Catholic charities are picking up the women and kids. There's all these other folks. And then they are dumping, the Biden administration is dumping out all the military-age men who are just economic migrants. They're kicking them out. But while they're waiting to be processed, Abbott and these other assholes are putting them on buses and shipping them into the country.
Stop the flow.
No,
You
Mexico's
somehow
not
made
doing
them
anything.
do it. How did you do it?
I did it with money. I did it by saying that you're going to pay big tax on your cars if we.
What car? What do you mean your cars? How many fucking Mexican cars do you think we're driving in the United States? Does this motherfucker think the El Camino is a fucking Mexican car? He does, doesn't he? This motherfucker.
I don't know if you see it. Any car with an O in its last name that isn't Korean, that's clearly a Mexican car. The El Camino. I said, you're not going to sell it. You're not going to sell the El Camino.
They don't do what you have to do. They gave me 28,000 soldiers. They gave me everything I wanted because I was going to put huge tariffs on Mexico. If
On American cars.
they didn't give me everything. We got everything. We got 28,000 people, soldiers, Mexican soldiers, free,
Mexican soldiers.
guarding our border while we were building the wall. We built almost 500 miles. We're going to build another 200 miles.
Why? I thought it was finished.
And it was all built and done. You know, they
Oh,
carted it away after they came in. Can you believe it? All they had to do is
You mean the part you were going to put on private land or native land
install it. Would have
that you couldn't?
taken about 3 weeks.
It would have taken about 3 weeks if we did eminent domain on everyone. Donald Trump, by the way, is the first president since the Mexican-American War to give territory to Mexico. Look it up.
You're a developer. You're a builder.
No, his father was. He's a second-generation rich kid who sucked off the tit of his dad's company and hasn't built shit since then.
They literally
Right.
paid, this administration, Mr. President, paid the construction workers to not build the wall. Then they sold off the materials for pennies on the dollar. It's stunning to me. What are your thoughts?
Have you seen the gate part that they put in? It's way better as a design.
When you saw that?
Well, I know contractors better than anybody. So
That's not being a builder. That just means you know the fucking mob in New York.
some of them don't speak the language too well. Some of them can hardly read or write, but they're smarter than anybody in that administration.
Right.
And they walked away with money.
Okay, no. There are no contractors in the United States that can't read or write, fuckhead. And what he means is they don't speak the language very well. He means Hispanic because he hires a bunch of people under the table for Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster and the like, and he needs somebody who can translate to them. The fuck?
Much more money than if they built it. They would have actually, they made more money by not building the wall than they would have if they built it. Can you imagine
Yeah, great. I guess that was part of your deal. Maybe you should have written that into the plan.
that?
I
Well,
can't.
you know, they go with the cost overruns and all the different things that contractors do so well. They ripped apart this country. It's so sad to see.
Wait, the contractors you hired to build a wall ripped off this country? So you didn't set up a contracting system wherein if the wall isn't scheduled because it's a governmental, we live in a democracy, this isn't a business, so any contract is subject to, a change in the voting. You didn't write that in? Fucking art of the deal, I guess.
So you're saying overnight you could actually go back to stay in Mexico, maybe Title 42. You would
If you go back to Title 42, the number of people crossing goes up. The only reason it was down during his last year in office was because of fucking COVID.
close the border. It would be done that quickly.
Be done very quickly. Yep, it'll happen very quickly. And then the big problem is you have to get a lot of people out because they have a lot of prisoners and mental institution people.
Except
Mental institution people.
what's the word for it? I keep forgetting. There's a word for cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. No, that's not it. Looney Tunes. No. Mental institutionalized sick people. They're sick people, and they're so sick and mental institutionalized people.
7 million people, though. How do you do that?
You have to get them. You have to do what?
Yeah, you got to get them. You got to do them.
Dwight Eisenhower, believe it or not, he was very strong on the border. Took a lot of people out of the country. We have to do it. We have to do it.
Former President Donald Trump. Go ahead.
Dwight Eisenhower kicked a lot of people out of the country. The fuck are you talking about?
Joe, there's no country that can handle what's happened to us. There's no country ever.
What are you talking about? We have more jobs than we have people. It's probably better for the cohesion of a country if the jobs that are necessary for the internal workings of the country are filled by the people who are born there. In general, that's true of almost any country. But immigration is one of the ways that you fill in those gaps if you don't at all, and especially when it's specific jobs and this is why they're fine with like people from India and other like high-tech zones coming into the United States to work at tech firms. They don't have a problem shining that shit on. But if somebody wants to pick fruit, suddenly they're a villain.
It can handle this even economically, financially. Yeah. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars a day. Now they want to build hospitals. They want to build schools. These kids are going into our schools. They're sitting in a chair and they don't speak any English. And they're sitting in a chair. I don't know how that works.
Okay. First of all, you do bilingual transitional education for immigrant kids. Secondly, a lot of kids don't speak the language very well at the beginning of school. Secondly, you don't speak the language. Jesus Christ.
We are going to be a country no more. I actually think it will not. It will be a country no more.
Mm-hmm.
Free health care for illegal. Look,
you got to see what's happening with the schools in New York and all over the place. Kids are going in, sitting in a classroom. They don't understand a word what the teacher's saying.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they got. If they write a number on the chalkboard, they know what numbers are, right? If I can work. By the way, don't get offended by this dickhead because it's just fucking blather. But let's see, real quick, do one thing. There you go. I was just like, Jesus Christ, I'm huge. How did I end up so goddamn big? That ain't right. That ain't right at all. That is not right. And I ain't sure why. Something happened. That's just funky. Funky. Funky dong dong. Look out, funky man. Oh, that's better. Thanks, man. Thanks for making me smaller. Now, what the fuck is even happening there? Why am I floating all over the goddamn place? Oh, there we go. Hey, that felt good. Felt a little strange, actually. No, that's wrong. Do this and there you go. And whee, I'm sliding around. Oh, that's fun. Come on, there we go. Now you see more of me. Now I can talk. That's good. So, hey, I heard some tale mention that these people in these he's saying this Donald Trump feller, he's saying a lot of kids in the American schools sitting in these desks are from other countries and they don't talk good. Let me tell you something. Most of the time when well, I was about to say most of the time, all the time. Anytime you hear somebody talking with an accent, that means they know one more language than you. And that even includes me, because fucking goddamn it, listen here. I may have this fucked up accent or whatever, but I speak holler. And if you're ever stuck in the holler and you're in big fucking trouble, you're going to want somebody like me to translate for you. You understand what I'm saying? You're going to need a translator. I'm going to have to come out here and go, these fucking dudes ain't got no go-go juice and they just round about there and stuff need to get something in their belly before they can ski-daddle. And then you'll go, oh, okay, I know what you're saying. Well, they go down that general store and fill you up with some go-go juice and then you can get you a fucking hot pickle and then be on your fucking way. See, sometimes you need a holler translator. Fucking sit there and talk about people who sitting in class don't know how to fucking talk. Watch your fucking mouth, son. Know how to talk.
What are your thoughts on New York? Your city?
I tell you my thoughts on New York. Tall buildings and beautiful women. I swear to fucking God, man. You go down there, like every single woman is like, what? Now, I know what y'all thinking. You're the kind of guy who has to, kidnap somebody in a van, drag them up into the hills to increase your odds of not having an inbred child. And certainly, that is something we have to deal with in my part of the country. But I, in particular, I'm a lover, not a flighter. Is where you snack somebody and never mind.
My city. What are your thoughts on Eric Adams freaking out over 125?
Your city? I thought he fucking lived there. Ain't he the New Yorker? This motherfucker lives in West Palm Beach and thinks he's a Southerner now.
5,000 illegals. When again here in Texas, we've got millions and millions in these very small towns on the border. What about his freak?
I'm sorry, but real quick, if a town has millions and millions of people, it ain't a small town. Yeah, I'm just saying, Town I grew up in, but I was buddy with Hal growing up. We grew up in Peaks Mill, Kentucky. 46 fucking people, buddy. That's a small town. If you got millions of people in your town, you ain't a small town, motherfucker. You're a goddamn metropolis.
Yeah, they invited everybody to come. We're a sanctuary city. Now he's going nuts. He can't control it.
Well, the one thing he did, he's the first Democrat to do it. He said that this is not sustainable. This is going to destroy the city.
Right.
And he got scolded very harshly for saying that.
They did, man. They took him out to the woodshed and gave him a little.
They stick together, the Democrats. But he did say that.
If they stick together, why'd they scold him? Why didn't they just go, oh, okay, whatever you say?
And it's true. I mean, you don't have to be a politician. You don't have to be anything. You don't
have to be anything. That's his motivational thing. I feel so much better about myself. Don't worry, Ficus. You don't have to be anything.
Anybody can see. They're destroying our country from within. We are being absolutely...
Who's they? Who? Who is they? You mean the Democrats or the immigrants or the immigrant Democrats or they're immigrating Democrats or... Shit.
Marginalized. There's no way the country can afford it.
Marginalized? This motherfucker thinks he's a minority now? Orange lives matter.
And the crime statistics are now turning out to be the worst ever in history.
No, they were the worst ever last year. They're going down. But people lost their fucking minds post-COVID. And if you can run around wearing a mask, it's a lot easier to get to that crime you've been waiting for the perfect opportunity for years. Wait, I can go out with half my fucking face covered? Excellent.
I mean, the people coming in, many of these peoples are literally, these are hardcore prisoners.
Many of these peoples are hardcore prisoners who aren't in prison anymore. So I think criminal is the word you're looking for, because if you're not imprisoned, you're not a prisoner. I don't want to nitpick. It's just kind of important.
The people that hardcore, and you know what these?
Oh, they're hardcore. They like it hardcore. They are. They're them hardcore criminals. Whatever they do, they just raw dogging it all over the place. Money shots to the wind.
This country saved by not putting these people in jail for 50 years. The money, the prisons are being emptied out. They have no cost. Whereas they used to be so crowded you couldn't breathe.
Right.
Yeah. So how did they, wait a minute. Okay. So run this by me again. So these countries, their jails were so crowded you couldn't even breathe. But these motherfuckers were able to live without air. God damn, these guys are tough. Oh, shit. These are some of the toughest hombres ever. They don't even need air. There's a word for a human that doesn't need air anymore. I don't know how to say it in Spanish, but in English it's corpse.
And now they have no cost. They've been all brought into the United States of America.
They've been all brought in. That's what they did. They got all brought in.
It's former President Donald Trump.
Very former.
Believe you that you'll close it because you did it before. Obviously.
No, he didn't. COVID did, dumb fuck.
You've got the history of doing it.
We'll have the right people. We have Tom Homan. We have great.
He's so
people.
good.
We have great people.
If he's so good, how come them guys ain't doing the job anymore? Why'd they just go, fuck, I hate Biden so much, I'm going to let everybody in? Huh?
They want to do it. They're chomping at the bit.
I want to clear the air.
Why are they wearing it? But you know what? None of my fucking business.
On something because the mainstream media will not cover this correctly. But
they won't cover, well, correctly.
Before January 6th, I've had Kash Patel on. I've had Devin Nunes on. By the way, thank you for retruthing that interview the other day.
He what? Retruthed it? Jesus Christ. Is that like regifting but with bullshit?
And these guys tell me they know for a fact, and they've got paper trails to prove it, that you offered 10 to 20,000 National Guard troops for January 6th, and you were turned down by Nancy Pelosi.
No, he didn't. He didn't offer it. They discussed it, but it was never put in. You have to do it formally. Secondly, the only reason he didn't go through with it is because the guys he wanted to send were on. He was like, I'll send a bunch of these fuckers that are on my team, if you know what I'm saying, from states that like me. And then when the time comes, I'll tell them to turn around and sick them.
See the Capitol Police, and by Muriel Bowser. Let's go on record with it. Did you offer them?
Dip, 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 doom. Good nights. I'm sorry, you say Bowser is what I do.
Yes, 100%. I offered them in front of a lot of people.
In front of a lot of people? What do you mean in front of a lot? It's either on paper and signed or it ain't, man. And when you offered some of the folks to walk around D.C., they weren't even allowed to have fucking riot shields.
Secretary of Defense, a great guy. He
whatever his name is, whoever that, that dude, the guy, Secretary of fucking what's his name, the guy you appointed, who was your guy that you put in at the last minute, that you were like, I need to bounce this motherfucker, whoever he is, and put in this guy because he's the fucking dude. Tell us, what was that again, dipshit? What'd you say? Who?
Record with it. Did you offer them?
Yes, 100%. I offered them in front of a lot of people. Secretary of Defense, a great guy. He absolutely, he could.
That's his name, great guy? Or maybe he's doing it in reverse order, like he's doing roll call, like Guy Great. His name's Guy, first name's Guy, last name Great, like fucking Raising Cane and Guy Great.
Confirmed it. Everybody confirmed it. Everybody knows. In fact, the mayor of D.C. was offered to her also, and Nancy Pelosi.
Right.
She rejected it in writing. We have the letter, and nobody wants to cover that.
Well, show the letter, man. Joey Pag's got a screen. Put it up on fucking screen. Let's see it.
That was 3 days before, and only because I felt it was going to be a very big. Everybody was saying they were going. It's a much bigger event than people know. They never like showing the crowd. It's the biggest crowd I've ever been spoken before. I've never.
It is. Sorry, run that by me again. It's the biggest crowd you've ever been spoken before. Fuck, man. People say my English is bad. God damn. What? How the fuck? Say that again.
I felt it was going to be a very big. Everybody was saying they were going. It's a much bigger event than people know. They never like showing the crowd.
No.
It's the biggest crowd I've ever been spoken before.
It is the biggest crowd I've ever been spoken before. For the record, if Joe Biden said something like that, these motherfuckers would be making almond-smelling jokes for a goddamn week.
Never spoken to a crowd that size. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken to, including inaugurations, including everything.
Well, obviously your inauguration was pitifully small.
I never spoke to a crowd that big. And it was love and it was spirit.
And guns.
They were protesting an election that was crooked, that was rigged and stolen. And
by bringing a Confederate flag that they intended on running around the Capitol, as you do, and the materials to which they could actually build a gallows. Takes a lot of spirit to look up how to make a gallows on YouTube. Hey Google, how you doing that fucking? How you make a gallows? I don't know. It seems like a simple process, but you don't want it to snap at the wrong time because then you got an angry revenuer right in front of you. So how do you make a fucking gallows? Okay, well, we'll need some. Okay, somebody write these down. I need 16 2x4s, 14 2x1s, a rope, obviously. Somebody who knows how to make that knot because it looks simple, but it fucking ain't. And stairs. Okay, tickety-tackety-tackety-tack. Okay, who wants to be on? Okay, everybody wants to bring the fucking stairs and nobody wants to bring the goddamn 4x4s. Shit.
Look what's happened to our country.
Since they took the gallows down.
Since this election took place, our country is being destroyed. We're no longer respected. We have
by Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, they're pissed at us. They don't like us at all.
Competent president. He's incompetent. The guy can't put two sentences together.
Right.
Right. But, I mean, obviously he doesn't have the best words like you
We're
do.
going to be a country no more. I actually think it will not. It will be a country no more.
I think that's actually what it sounds like when you put two sentences together that don't belong. You know what I mean? Smash that like while you're doing this if you think you watch. Okay.
It's terrible. Now we pay $6 billion to Iran to let 5 people out.
On 9/11.
Maybe,
On
Oh yeah, Iran didn't do 9/11. You know, the Saudis did. The people who Jared's got a $3 billion deal with. You do recognize that, right? Literally, there's one. You can argue the fucking Iranians aren't good people. Oh, you fucking won't. But I'll tell you one fucking thing. They weren't on the list of countries to invade when fucking 9/11 happened at fucking all.
9/11.
I don't know. They were in Iran. Why would they?
But they are, yeah, I guess Pags is making the point that they got a bunch of Muslims in there, and all Muslims are the same, and in general.
There? I mean, somebody should ask that question. Why were they there? You know, you go to Iran, what, are they taking a vacation? But they, think of this. 6.
Oh, so I got you. So the Iranian hostages, those folks who took a wrong turn and end up in Iranian territory and end up getting captured and accused of being spies and all that shit. Those people need to have their fucking methods and their motives checked. But the fuckers that stayed behind in Afghanistan because they got dual citizenship and they're in the fucking poppy trade, those folks are pure as fucking driven snow.
$1 billion to allow 5 people out. And the 5 people that Iran got, you know, they didn't have to pay anything.
Right.
It's not even believable.
And that money's going to be used for terrorism, as you know, they're the largest state sponsor of terrorism. It's for
No, actually, Russia is now, technically speaking.
former President Donald Trump. I've got to ask you about the indictments quickly. There's nothing there.
Oh, there's a lot there. There's, you know what there is? There's a lot of time there. And you're talking to somebody who has spent an inordinate amount of time in front of judges across this great country saying what I think is the greatest opening argument that a defendant can have is, Your Honor, see what happened was, that'll usually get you through it. Just start there. See what happened was.
New York, not in D.C., not in Atlanta, Georgia. There's nothing there except the one case, and I had Alan Dershowitz on about this. He said the one case that Jack Smith might try to do something with is you holding up, I don't know if you're holding up a napkin or a document or what you're holding up.
He was holding up a classified document because he said he was holding up a classified document. Napkin? Where the fuck do you get napkin, asshole? Napkin? Napkin. Joey Pags, you chintzy motherfucker. Napkin? Also, you had Dershowitz on? Jesus Christ, did he leave his underwear on? Did you?
And said, man, I should have declassified this. I can't do it now. I'm not the president anymore. There's a good argument to be made by many very intelligent people that if you say, take that.
By the way, hold on one second. Hal would like to say something to you. I think it's some bullshit about him being right all the time. Can I just say for the record, we've talked about these cases a few times, and thank you, Ficus. I appreciate it, my brother. We've talked about these cases, and I've been back and forth about which ones, will, actually impact him or whatever. But as far as whether or not they give a fuck about the Georgia case and how he thinks he can bullshit his way through it by pretending he thought for real that the election was stolen and therefore he was doing his duty as president and blah, blah, blah. Any of that shit. The documents case is going to lose him more Republicans than anybody else, than anything else. And this is the proof. The fact that Joey Pags, in the middle of this butt-sucking interview that he is doing right now, where he is just straight up giving Trump a rusty trombone, that he has to drop this and go, this looks like a case. This looks like this is something. This is some scary shit. This could be some scary shit. And I heard that from a fucking dude who used to party with Epstein just like you did.
Out of the White House, that automatically declassifies it. Is that what you believe?
Well, a lot of people say that, and
no, they don't. A lot of people don't say that. Tom Fitton says that, and he's full of shit. And he's only saying it because that's the way to let him hang around
there's
you.
a lot of arguments to be made. The big argument, though, is that I come under the presidential
No, you don't. This ain't an argument, motherfucker.
Records Act. I was allowed to have whatever I wanted.
Right.
No, you weren't.
And even the New York Times wrote an article. It's please, 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 Mr. President, can I have the documents? Because the Presidential Records Act allows you to have it, and it's criminal.
No. Oh, yes, it is. Look. Oh, Freudian slip. Freudian slip. Freudian slip. It's a letter.
Here I am like an idiot.
Yep. Freudian slip, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. Say it again. He meant to say it's civil. He does this all the time. He just said it's
And the
criminal.
New York Times wrote an article. It's please, 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 Mr. President, can I have the documents? Because the Presidential Records Act allows you to have it, and it's criminal. It's not criminal. What's criminal is what they're doing.
Nice bailout.
But it's not criminal. But what they're doing is criminal. And they
I see. Yeah, you got that straight. Sorry. Run me by that, Mr. Best Words again.
I was allowed to have whatever I wanted.
Right.
And even the New York Times wrote an article. It's please, 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 Mr. President, can I have the documents? Because the Presidential Records Act allows you to have it, and it's criminal. It's not criminal. What's criminal is what they're doing, but it's not criminal. But what they're doing is criminal, and they don't like to even mention the Presidential Records Act.
Yeah, you're not being charged under the Presidential Records Act, motherfucker. You're being charged under the Espionage Act because this is about classified documents, not your fucking personal papers.
And Biden isn't covered because he was vice president.
Right.
Yes, he was. Also, and the Presidential Records Act does not give you coverage. The Presidential Records Act curtails what you're allowed to take with you. It lessens it.
Either is Mike Pence, by the way, but they're not covered. Nobody's covered unless you're a president, and it was in 1978 it was passed for exactly this reason.
Are you worried?
No, for the exact opposite reason, you fucking hydrocephalic fucking moron.
At all about any of these cases?
No, I'm not worried because if I did, I'd be a much less effective person. And it just,
I see. I'm not worrying about it because if I even stopped to think about it, I would be nonstop pants shitting 24/7. I'm not even worried about it. I don't worry about anything. If I even thought about it for 2 seconds, oh God, it would be too much. But Diet Coke in a diaper.
these are corrupt people. We have corrupt people running our country. The most
Ooh, corrupt. Easy there. You'll get him demonetized.
corrupt people ever. They cheat on elections. What they do is so bad. And now they've weaponized. They've
Weaponized. Oh, have they? Oh,
weaponized. They go after people. They go after.
Oh, they weaponized and they go after people by weaponizing things? Oh, what are they weaponizing? They're weaponizing things? Is that a word you've heard a lot lately? Is it?
You. They'll go after anybody.
No. They don't give a fuck about. Nobody gives a shit about Joey Pags. We're not going after Joey Pags. We don't give a fuck.
They go after people if they're of faith, if they talk about.
No, they're not. I got news for you. Everybody outside of a prison currently or not embroiled in some sort of, politically tainted scandal is not an atheist. Also, atheists don't get a fucking free pass to murder and kill and do whatever the fuck just because we got to save room for all the Joel Osteen fans.
Abortion in the wrong way.
Right.
What they.
I beg your pardon? What, are they going through the butt?
They'll
What's
go
happening?
after anybody. They go after people if they're of faith, if they talk about abortion in the wrong way.
Right.
What
How do you talk about abortion in the wrong way?
When they go inside the man with a pair of forceps and they pull the thing out and then they twist it and then the baby is born like half alive and then they feed it back to the man. What are you talking about? I could be in this doctor's office.
they do is they go after everybody. If you challenge an election,
Why everybody? That must be exhausting.
it's supposed to be the person that cheated on the election.
Right. Well, they are going after you. And the only people we have, any kind of numbers that point to people who mass voted fraudulently, it's Trump voters. The people from the village who tried to vote like 3-4 times. Seriously, the only people that tried to vote multiple times wantonly and with total disregard for how democracy works were Trump supporters. Period. End of story. The reason this motherfucker's like, we know there was cheating because his people cheated. He just thinks you can't tell the difference. It's like, once the ballots are in, we'll just claim that the Democrat-leaning ballots were the ones that were cheated and made out of fake paper, and the numbers are all off and not ours. Because if there's too many voters in an area, they must have been Democrats, even though this fucker was losing and knew it.
Right.
And was in charge of the fucking country at the time. Who's in a better position to cheat during the election? A Democrat who's been out of office for 4 years, who nobody thought would run, much less win, who was, a second-tier candidate until he burst through by pulling together the largest coalitions of Democratic voters in fucking decades. But put that aside. Who has more power? The guy who's actually running for office and not in office, or the guy who's in fucking office running the goddamn country?
Yes.
Again, in states run by Republicans.
In trouble. They go after the person that complains about the cheating. Think of that.
No one has been jailed for complaining. Not a single person. Or for just asking questions. No one goes to jail for that.
Okay.
And the First Amendment says you can do that.
Plenty of us.
Yeah, the First Amendment, this is a violation of my First Amendment. I could get mad. I can complain. I could, it's my First Amendment right to talk to a hired hitman and complain about my wife and tell him that there's money in the glove box. That's my freedom. I didn't tell him explicitly to murder her. I just said there's $5,000 in the glove box. That's true. I said, I don't mind if she suffers a little. That was also true. I mean, I was in an acrimonious situation, Your Honor. These are all just free speech. I was just, a man can't complain about his cheating, mean-spirited wife who's always, he can't tell a nice man he's just met over the internet that there's $5,000 in an envelope in the glove box. There is. I was just being honest. How was I supposed to know he was going to take it? I was looking out the window when he took the money, of course, as the cops rolled up, and he turned out to be one. But I was just exercising my free speech rights, Your Honor, to bitch about my wife. And then, of course, give a look. I gave him a gun. Yes. And did he use it to shoot at her? Absolutely. But did I tell him to shoot her with it? No. I was just giving. Is gift giving a crime now? Is this the war on Christmas? I just was trying to make it Christmas in late March.
Because I think about 80% of the country thinks the election was rigged.
I know you've
No, we do not.
got to go. I got to ask you a couple of more quick ones. You mentioned Mike Pence. Did you ever say, hey, Mike, choose between me and the Constitution? He keeps saying that you said that.
No, I never said it. It's a made-up fairy tale, and he knows it.
It's an allegory. All the questions, everything that Trump was asking him to do was effectively asking him to choose between his loyalty to Trump and his loyalty to the Constitution. Shut the fuck up.
Think of it. It's such.
I am thinking of it. I did think of it. And you could tell that I think about it and that I thought about it a lot. And that's why my point is so fucking articulate.
It's a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, who would say that?
Nobody. It's an allegory.
And I assume he said, I said it in front of people. Or I don't even know, but I heard he said that. Think of how stupid that sentence is. Who would say that?
No one. But if they're summing up what you were saying for a fucking week and a half or a month, that pretty much nails it.
I had
Even
Christine.
if you were alone with somebody, you wouldn't
Right.
say that.
I had Christina
Nobody
Bob on.
would say that, unless it's a person that's got about a 20
On what?
IQ. Nobody would say that.
I
Sounds so stupid.
had your attorney
That
on,
was
Christina
like when
Bob.
they said I grabbed the Secret Service agent.
Yeah, well, the reason he grabbed the Secret Service agent's wheels because he thought the guy couldn't hurt him. That guy's supposed to take a bullet from me, so I guess I'm allowed to beat him up, right? He can't punch me. He's the Secret Service. Durr. It's the perfect coward's way out. Let's see. Pence, choose, between Trump and Constitution. Something like that. Pence takes aims at Simon Popular. Mike Pence slams Trump. Imitates the lurching ways. Mike Pence. Trump asked me to. Okay. This is 3 minutes. Let's see. Okay. So this is what they're referring to. Hold on real quick. This is right here. Here you go. Whoops, wrong one. Sorry. Back to here. Yeah, here it is. The Mike Pence. Trump asked me to choose him or the Constitution. I choose the Constitution as it happened. Says probably to stand by Trump, but goes on to criticize attempts to overturn the election. Live tweeted, okay. I think, let's see. Former president was proud to stand by Trump, but goes on to criticize attempt to overturn the election. Live feed from Trump asked me to choose between the show more. Directly addressing the rivalry between them, said his then boss asked him to choose between him and the Constitution. Jan 6 was a tragic day in the life of our nation, as I've said many times. On that fateful day, President's words were reckless. They endangered my family, everyone at the Capitol, but the American people know. President Trump also demanded that I choose between him and the Constitution. Now voters will face the same choice. I chose the Constitution. I always will. Yeah, okay. So he didn't say choose between me or the Constitution, Mike. His demands were effectively that. Like, this is the sort of like ignorant, not overtly naive inability to analogize stuff. Oh, God. So stupid. Lazy and dumb.
Who's like this really tough. I grabbed him around the neck and started choking him in the car ride.
You commandeered the car. You commandeered the car from him, Mr. President.
Yeah, I took two guys that are really powerful, tough guys that lift weights all day.
I had Chris.
I threw my arms around them, and I had them. I tell you, that actually increased my image a lot, because a lot of people said I had no idea you were that tough.
I had.
No one. This is basically another kind of Sir story. No one thinks that. No one actually. You're like, oh, you're a tough guy like that. No, this asshole thinks that they can't even. I can hit them and they can't even hit me back.
Imagine a story so stupid.
No, it's stupid. It is stupid, but the media likes to run with it. Christina Bobb told me that what you wanted him to do was there were 4 states that were asking to just have their delegates back. Just send the envelopes back.
No, they weren't asking for this.
We want to make sure that we got it.
The states were not asking for this. Not at all. They were arranging for this to happen, but the states were not requesting that this happen.
Right. And you said, Mike, why don't you do that? And he said no.
Because they'd already been certified. It didn't matter. The legislatures themselves weren't going to establish that something else funky had happened, because they hadn't already. They'd already gone through their recounts. They'd cured ballots. They'd talked to people. They'd done canvassing, everything, lawsuits. They'd gone through all of it for fucking a month and a half, and nothing happened.
He did say no. And I did ask him to do it. And by the way, if you look,
there's a little admission.
Look at what happened right after the election. Everybody said, and he said too, and his lawyer said, that he couldn't do anything. He was just a conveyor belt into Mitch McConnell, who's the worst, by the way. He was just a conveyor belt into
I think a rubber stamp.
Mitch McConnell for the votes, right? So it turned out, the electors. So it turned out, and everybody said that. And Mike said, sir, I can't do it because I'm not allowed to. Under the Constitution, I'm not allowed to. Then it turned out right after the election was over, they all met, the rhinos and the Democrats, and they made it so that the vice president can't do that.
Right.
So I said,
no, they clarified the language so no fucker like you could ever try that shit again. By the time somebody tried, it would be maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, and they try it again because, Trump came this close, but if we just worded it slightly different, we could probably do it. All we need is a bunch of people to show up with fucking guns or stun rays or whatever the fuck the weapon of choice is in the future.
So you mean you could do that?
Exactly.
No, you couldn't do that. They were clarifying it. And again, it's one of the heart of the law versus Jesus Christ. We never actually thought we'd have a criminal fuck like this try to get around it.
I didn't say that to him. I said to other people.
Of course.
And they were telling everybody, you can't do it. In other words, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. But
I see. Is that what they were saying? You can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. So they were saying to people, you can't do it. So they said, you can't do it, you can't do it. I see.
After the election was over, they went and they changed the law. So I said,
no, they didn't. They clarified the law.
They're changing the law. That means you could do it.
Yes.
No, they're not changing the law. They're clarifying the law so nobody tries it again.
And the answer was, that's right.
Of course.
No, the answer was not, that's right. The answer was, you're a fucking idiot. Just for the record.
Here I am like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Would have done it.
I know
he would have been the most popular guy instead of being at 2% right now. He would have been, and you know what? Regardless, and it would be send them. We're not asking for what Thomas Jefferson asked for. Thomas Jefferson kept the votes of Georgia because they couldn't come up with an accurate count. He said, "We will hear."
Okay, motherfucker, you are not allowed to compare where we are today to fucking horse and buggy times. When those boxes they carry the electoral college votes in that are ceremonial that they've had for fucking ever, those were physically necessary. There was no computer tallying or any available way to verify and hold them before they were traveled. Anyway, they literally could lose them because fucking Choctaws rolled up on somebody and burned the fucking wagon.
We will keep the votes from the great state of Georgia.
Right.
In other words, he took the votes. I didn't ask for that. said send them back to the state legislatures and let them review them, because a lot of people were complaining with.
Yeah, Republicans, because they lost. I don't give a fuck if they're complaining. You complain. Who gives a shit if you're complaining? If you have a legitimate legal appeal, you'd have used it by then. We don't stop our fucking democracy because you guys are whingy little bitches.
For a good reason.
Yes.
And they were complaining. He said, I'm not allowed to do that. Well, he was allowed to do that. And that's why they changed the law right after the election took place. And now the vice president can't do it, but he would have been. You know, if he did that, and all he was asked to do, send them for a week or a few days back.
Just a few days, a week, while we declare victory, and then we don't have an inauguration, and nobody's sworn in, and then my folks show up, and we just hold the Capitol at gunpoint until they come back with the ones we want.
To the legislatures, right.
Pennsylvania was not going to change their electoral votes. Neither was Georgia.
Right.
5 or 6 places.
5 or 6 places. Wisconsin, nope. Michigan, nope. Arizona, nope.
Send them back, and let's see what happens. Let them.
What would happen is that your fucking crazies would, I guess, camp out for a week at the fucking Capitol and promise not to murder anybody while they're there. Is that how that works?
Look, say there's been dispute on your thing, and let's see what happens.
There's been dispute on your thing.
Regardless of how they sent him back, I think it would have been a different election.
I agree.
But regardless of.
Well, yeah, it would have been a different election. It would have stopped being an election.
What they did, Mike would have been the most popular guy. He would have been great.
No. Amongst maggots, maybe. But the rest of the country would have fucking pilloried him.
But he didn't have the courage to do it. And it's so sad to watch.
Excuse me. Mike Pence did have courage on that day because the people who wanted him to do this had already planned to hang him in front of the fucking Capitol. Maybe the Secret Service can hold those folks off. Maybe not. Maybe it's a fucking World War Z moment for those fucking guys. And when they finally get through, they grab Mike Pence and they fucking snap his neck and then do a ceremonial hanging in front of the fucking place. Or they actually take him out there and fucking hang him while law enforcement is held at bay by giant throngs of these fucking maggots. But either way, the courage was to go, fuck you. I'm not bowing to people who build a fucking gallows.
And it's sad to watch how nobody shows up to his meetings and how they call him a traitor. They call him a traitor. He had very bad advice for some people that work for him. I know who the people are. And they said, Mike, you have
Dude, you don't even know who the people who work for you are.
no choice. Mr. Vice President, you have no choice. You cannot do what you want to do. You cannot do it.
Right, and he couldn't.
If he would have said, all he do, and he could have stood up and he could have said, ladies and gentlemen, there's a great question about this. What I'd like to do is send it for 1 week back to Pennsylvania and various other places.
Yeah.
Okay, Arizona. Send them back to 5 or 6 states for 1 week. They have 1 week to get back.
By the way, if he'd have done that, 3 hours later, they would have voted against that in the Senate, including a bunch of Republicans, and said no and gone back to counting. For the record. It wouldn't have even proceeded. He doesn't have the right to just send it back to the states fucking willy-nilly. There's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. Because think about, don't push aside the whole Pence being the guy. Imagine if Dick Cheney could have done that at any given time. I don't actually believe that America, that the vote on term limits was real. Therefore, as the vice president under George W. Bush, I'm sending all these electoral count votes back, and we're just going to stay in office because we don't believe that that was adjudicated. Get the fuck out of here.
If he would have done that, regardless of how they got back, okay, I think they would have come back positively. But regardless, Mike Pence would have been a hero. Instead, he's treated very, very badly. And then he made up that story about me, take me over the Constitution. Could you imagine me saying that to somebody?
Nobody said that. Nobody's saying you said that. Effectively, that was what you were saying. By asking him to do what you said, you were asking him to do that. It's an analogy. This fucking one-to-one bullshit, like that we're all supposed to pearl clutch and become like idiotic, naive morons. This motherfucker does this all the time, too, where he's like, when people analogize something or they, or they try to come up with a concise version of an argument, he's like, I never said that. Like, that's what you're saying. That's what the result of what you're saying would be. I don't care how much, if you took a fucking week to blather this shit out, it would have resulted in this. Yeah, but that's not what I said. Oh, God. It's the result of what you would have said. It's exactly what you're saying. You just blathered over it for a long time.
It sounds so stupid.
It sounds so stupid that you don't understand that he was saying you are asking him to choose between the validity of the Constitution and our actual democracy, our republic system that we choose our leaders through democracy, choose between that and servitude to you. That's exactly what you were asking for. It's exactly. It is a concise explanation of what was going on without, again, blathering for a fucking hour.
I wouldn't say that. You say, I'd really appreciate your vote and everything else, but I would never say, take me over the Constitution.
Right.
It's like a child would say that.
Mr. President.
No, it's very bad people. We have a lot of bad people involved.
What do you mean very bad people? You picked him as your vice president, fuckhead, back in the whole the best people, hashtag the best people.
And this stuff.
Finding time for me today. I appreciate it. My audience appreciates it.
In between what? Golf and throwing ketchup at the wall? Finding time? What do you think he's doing? Running a fucking post-presidency charity? No. All right, maybe you could argue that he's very busy prepping for all of his court cases. But listening to him talk, it sounds like he's not talking to his lawyers, or he has no fucking idea what the evidence is against him, or just flat out doesn't fucking care and has decided to go that his defense will be 100%, I'll just like scream every which way and just murder the jury pool. So then I can claim I can never get a fair trial.
I could talk to you for 2 hours. Let's do it again soon, my friend. Thank you so much. The 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe, very much.
All right.
Thank you.
We're back after this. Stay right here.
Jesus Christ. Nope.